KJA Global Channel. The Political System and Me. Series 3. Institutions, Power, Rights, and Accountability. Episode 32. My Social Contract. Welfare, Inclusion, and Human Security. I once thought the social contract was a phrase for textbooks, a political theory, a historical concept, a line in a lecture. But then I watched people suffer. Not because they were lazy, not because they were evil, not because they failed to try. They suffered because life can break a person even when that person is doing everything right. A child becomes sick. A parent loses work. A mother becomes widowed. A flood destroys a home. A farmer loses a harvest. A worker is injured. A family is displaced. A community is trapped in conflict. A young person studies and still cannot find a future. I saw how quickly dignity can collapse without warning. How quickly normal life can become survival. That is when I understood that the social contract is not academic. It is the difference between a society that catches people when they fall and a society that watches them fall and calls it fate. This is where our question begins. What do citizens owe one another? What do they owe the state? And what must the state guarantee when illness, unemployment, disability, age, disaster, violence, or displacement threatens human dignity? The social contract says that we contribute to a common life. We obey lawful rules, respect the rights of others, contribute according to fair law, and accept shared responsibilities. In return, public institutions protect rights, provide security, preserve fair opportunity, and refuse to abandon people when life breaks them. Citizenship is not only responsibility, it is also protection. This episode is about welfare, inclusion, and human security. Not as charity or political reward, but as the foundation of a stable and dignified nation. The system reveal is the social contract and human security. The social contract is the agreement that citizens obey the law and the state protects rights. In plain language, the hidden mechanism is the social contract and human security. Welfare is not simply generosity. Properly designed, it is a civilizational safety net. It does not remove personal responsibility. It prevents a temporary shock from becoming permanent destruction. A short period without income can become hunger. Hunger can become illness. Illness can become debt. Debt can remove a child from school. And one shock can become a generation of exclusion. Social protection interrupts that chain. It preserves the person's ability to recover, work, care, learn, and participate. Human security is safety in its widest sense. Many systems define security only through police, military, borders, and weapons. But a nation can have a powerful army and remain deeply insecure. Citizens may still lack food, medicine, shelter, legal protection, clean water, livelihood, or freedom from extortion. Human security includes economic, food, health, environmental, personal, community, and political security. It asks not only whether the state survives. It asks whether the human being can survive with dignity. Inclusion is where the social contract becomes real in a diverse society. A country may proclaim equality while unwritten rules exclude people from documents, schools, jobs, benefits, healthcare, political voice, or public respect. Inclusion means that protection does not depend on ethnicity, religion, language, region, gender, disability, age, wealth, political loyalty, or personal connection. It means belonging without degrading conditions. assistance without humiliation, access without bribery, protection without obedience to a patron. Welfare must never become a tool of control. When food, medicine, housing, pensions, or disaster assistance depend on political loyalty, the social contract becomes coercion. Dictatorship prefers dependence because dependence can produce obedience. Benefits may be distributed through patronage, while independent unions, civic organizations, local associations, and accountable welfare institutions are weakened. A rights-based system is different. Eligibility follows public rules. Decisions create records. Denials include reasons. Appeals are possible. And the benefit does not disappear because the citizen criticizes the government. Rights must be joined with obligations. Citizens must respect law, contribute fairly, avoid fraud, and protect public resources. The state must collect revenue lawfully, spend transparently, protect equal access, maintain standards, and correct failure. A social contract collapses when citizens are asked to contribute but receive no protection. It also weakens when benefits are promised without sustainable financing, capable administration, or honest eligibility systems. Fiscal sustainability is therefore part of justice. A program that cannot be financed reliably may fail precisely when people need it most. Sustainability asks who contributes, what risks are covered, how costs change over time, what reserves exist, how fraud is controlled, and whether future generations inherit protection or debt without capacity. Sustainable does not mean minimal. It means credible, adequately financed, efficiently administered, and publicly accountable. Social protection can combine universal services that protect common dignity with targeted support for people facing greater risk. But targeting can fail when records are weak, criteria are unclear, applications are costly, or officials control access arbitrarily. Universal systems can also fail if benefits are too weak, services are inaccessible, or wealthy groups capture the greatest advantage. Good design must test both coverage and adequacy. Who is included? Who is missing? Is the support enough to make a meaningful difference? A life cycle approach recognizes changing needs. Children need nutrition, health, protection, and education. Adults may need employment, maternity, injury, disability, or unemployment support. Older people may need pensions, health care, and protection from neglect. Social protection must also respond to shocks. Conflict, displacement, epidemics, floods, drought, economic crisis, and sudden inflation can overwhelm ordinary systems. Emergency assistance should connect to durable institutions rather than create permanent parallel systems without accountability. To understand the social contract, follow the rights chain. Right or legitimate interest, law or constitutional rule, responsible institution, complaint or review, hearing and evidence, remedy, enforcement. Right or legitimate interest asks what human need or legal claim is at stake. Health, food, education, income security, housing, disability support, equal access, personal safety, or protection from destitution. Law or constitutional rule asks where the entitlement, duty, eligibility standard, and limit are defined. Responsible institution asks which ministry, local authority, insurance body, school, clinic, social service office, or independent agency must act. Complaint or review asks where a person can challenge exclusion, delay, discrimination, underpayment, or wrongful termination. Hearing and evidence ask what records are required, who listens, whether the person can respond, and whether vulnerable applicants receive assistance. Remedy asks what can correct the harm. Enrollment, payment, reinstatement, urgent support, compensation, service access, or policy correction. Enforcement asks who makes the remedy real and what happens when the responsible institution refuses. A broken outcome may begin far upstream. The visible harm may be a family denied assistance, a child excluded from school, a disabled person unable to access a service, or an older citizen left without support. But the deeper failure may be an unjust eligibility rule, an unfunded program, missing records, inaccessible offices, political interference, captured oversight, or an appeal that exists only on paper. The chain prevents us from reducing failure to one clerk or one office. It identifies where law, finance, capacity, evidence, inclusion, review, or enforcement stopped working. When citizens can locate that break, criticism becomes more accurate and reform becomes more practical. For this episode, the principal mechanism is the social contract and human security. The production graphic must make every link readable on a phone screen and label country-specific or proposed arrangements honestly. Under dictatorship, the social contract is shaped primarily by concentrated command. Information is restricted, institutions answer upward, benefits may reward loyalty, independent organization is constrained, and challenge may carry personal risk. In a fragile democracy, formal programs may exist while patronage, corruption, weak records, unequal capacity, politicized eligibility, or poor enforcement makes protection inconsistent. Benefits may arrive late. Rural or displaced people may remain invisible. Complaint bodies may lack authority. Public promises may exceed fiscal capacity. In a functioning federal democracy, authority is distributed, common rights remain enforceable, and national, regional, and local institutions share responsibility. Courts, legislatures, auditors, social insurance bodies, media, civil society, and citizens can test performance. But the label alone proves nothing. The viewer should compare who decides, how authority was obtained, whether records are public, whether affected people participate, and whether appeal, review, and public accountability exist in practice. A democratic social contract must be designed, funded, staffed, reviewed, and corrected. The minimum guardrails are: 1. Rights-based social protection. Eligibility, benefits, duties, reasons, deadlines, and appeal rights should be stated clearly and applied without political favor. 2. Equitable and sustainable financing. Taxes, contributions, transfers, reserves, budgets, and emergency funds must be transparent, fair, and credible over time. 3. Integrated services across the life cycle. Health, education, employment, disability, child protection, pensions, disaster response, and local services should coordinate around human needs rather than institutional boundaries. 4. Non-discriminatory access. Documentation, language, disability, distance, digital systems, gender, status, or political opinion must not become hidden barriers to protection. 5. Appeal, review, and public accountability. Citizens need safe complaint routes, reasoned decisions, independent review, public reporting, audit, and enforceable correction. These safeguards work as a system. Rights without financing become promises. Financing without records can feed corruption. Services without inclusion leave people invisible. Access without dignity becomes humiliation. And a remedy without enforcement does not repair harm. Global relevance. Across political labels, ask who decides, who contributes, who qualifies, what is public, who is excluded, who can appeal, and whether correction is real. Myanmar relevance. Use ordinary lived experience only where it clarifies the mechanism. Do not treat one organization, authority, community, welfare network, or proposed arrangement as the whole country. Separate existing institutions from interim systems, local practices, humanitarian arrangements, political commitments, and aspirational federal designs. Here is the civic practice for this episode. See and ask. Ask where your society's safety net catches people and where it lets them fall. Consider children, workers, displaced families, persons with disabilities, older people, and communities facing disaster or conflict. Verify. Examine eligibility rules, benefit levels, budgets, service standards, fiscal data, complaint routes, and evidence of inclusion. Distinguish a legal entitlement from discretionary assistance and a public program from political patronage. Act. Test one welfare or human security program. Examine eligibility, access, adequacy, dignity, sustainability, complaint, evidence, and enforcement. Use lawful methods and protect beneficiaries, witnesses, families, confidential records, and sensitive personal information. Review. Record whether you can name the responsible institution, the evidence, the safeguard or remedy, and one safe next step. Where public action is unsafe, complete the exercise privately and preserve no identifying information that could expose another person. The measure of success is not visibility. It is whether you can identify responsibility, evidence, a credible safeguard, and the safest practical action. When citizens believe welfare depends on obedience, the social contract becomes coercion again. Welfare must therefore be rights-based protection, not political reward. A nation is not held together only by borders. It is held together by the belief that belonging is worth it. When the social contract is strong, people can endure hardship without collapsing into hatred because they trust the system will not abandon them. When the social contract is weak, society becomes brittle. One shock can break it. Welfare, inclusion, and human security are the quiet guarantee that freedom is not only a word. It is a livable life. The principle to carry forward is this. The social contract is the agreement that citizens obey the law and the state protects rights. Ask yourself, what part of welfare, inclusion, and human security have I treated as normal even though it should be visible, answerable, and correctable? Good intentions depend on character. Public protection depends on institutions. Continue the playlist, use the worksheet, and keep the practice safe, truthful, and disciplined. The system shapes our lives. Our participation shapes the system. Subscribe. Learn, participate, shape the future. KJA, knowledge justifies authority.